Man, that elusive cloud is getting pretty heavy, huh?
Wouldn't you know it, Tom? And for reals, clouds are heavy. They weigh hundreds of thousands of pounds. Who would have known? They look so light and fluffy,
They look so fluffy. They look almost delicious sometimes.
right?
Hmm.
It is yet but another illusion, Tom.
Yeah. Was that a stratus or cumulus or a cunnilingus cloud? Oh, that's not one. So,
Right? Oh, yeah, that TikTok of the elusive word.
right.
No, that's that bald kid on PBS. No, that's
Yes, I remember that. That's awesome. I can't get enough of that.
not
Um, anyway, we have a great show lined up for our listeners.
Excelente.
Hmm. We're not going to talk about politics, though, which has been the trending topic. Um,
Yeah. We are politicked out this week, Tom.
yeah.
Isn't it what everybody
So
wants to talk about?
I do. I have an interesting thing that came up, and really it was inspired this morning. And so here I'll tell the story. About a week and a half ago. So, of course, we lifted together for 5 years.
Mm.
Fantastic. Miss that. I've continued with the lifting and, heavy barbell training, kettlebell work, and it's been great. And every once in a while, we would test our limits. We would test our strength. We would try to get a PR. We would try to go up in weight, and that feels really good. So recently, I wasn't testing anything, but I was working up to a heavy set of deadlifts, and I wasn't even near the max yet. Yeah, I was on the way up in some working sets, and tweak the lower back a little bit. It's definitely a muscle strain type of thing. And easy to do with some heavy deadlifts if you're not really focused on, the form and all that, which usually I am, but every once in a while you just, abandon that, you just yank it off the floor. Anyway, did some minor damage to the lower back. And so then I rehabbed my program and I went took things lighter for the following week. And things were feeling really good, and I was like, I should probably lay off the deadlifts for a while. Cool. So I've been doing other things, still doing squats and bench press, overhead press, doing some power cleans, things like that. So lighter pulls and doing some more kettlebell work. I love the circuit. Anyway, so this morning, I actually got up a little bit earlier. We had an issue in the house with ants, and my wife and I, especially my wife, she's just like she sees an ant and she goes fucking ape shit. So, so 4 in the morning, I'm moving the bed and vacuuming behind it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
one
so I
of
was up
those
early.
mornings.
Yeah. So I was up early and then got some coffee, the usual morning routine, and then I'm gonna go hit some weights, before the podcast. And everything was great. Everything felt great. And so I decided, hey, I'm gonna throw I'm gonna throw a couple of deadlifts around and just see where things are. And a
Right,
couple of them light felt really good. And I was like,
right,
oh, this is great. Because I thought I'm not gonna be able to do deadlifts ever anymore, right?
right.
And I really like that.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
If this were a Home Alone movie, this is where Macaulay Culkin would throw his hands to his face and go, "No."
Ah, yeah, exactly. So what do you think I did? I tested the limit.
Mm,
And ah, yep, it's still fucked up. So
yeah,
it had only been a week or a week and a half, right?
right.
So what was I thinking? But anyway, this leads to the conversation and the topic for today. We as human beings test our limits and we test boundaries.
Mm,
Boundaries set by ourselves, boundaries set by other people, people that we're close to, friends, bosses, rules and regulations, boundaries that are set by society at large. We end up testing those boundaries. And how many clients do you have that, you either set a boundary with them or they set a boundary with their partner or their partner sets a boundary and they end up crossing that boundary. They end up pushing it to try to test it a little bit. Maybe it's an unconscious drive or motivation to test it. But anyway, we as human beings end up testing limits and boundaries. Why the
right.
hell do we do this? That's
Let's see what we could get away with. Let's just see how far we can push it until we fall off the cliff. And
yeah.
we see this a lot in the couples work that we do too. And
Oh
they
yeah.
test each other's limits and boundaries.
Yeah.
Why is that?
We have this like human drive from childhood to like explore the world around us,
Right.
from dropping toys and to see what our parents do, to screaming and crying to see if we get attention. We push curfews, we
Hmm.
smoke out the window thinking that our parents aren't going to smell it,
Right.
right? We do these things and then it's just sort of the what happens if, and then we find out, it's that fuck around and find out type of thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But we do this. And why are we doing this?
Right. Well, I think, like you said, Tom, part of it's just human nature. We have to see what the limits are. We have to see how far we can push into directions because we want to know also not how far we can take it, but also what's going to be the response from others or from society at large.
Yeah,
If we push it, are we going to be held accountable, and how much can we do? And I think that's where we see the problems come in is when people push the boundaries and then are not held accountable. Then they're like,
yeah,
oh, well, I got away with A, so hey, let's try B.
right. Right. If you test the boundary at school or with a boss, and then you get away with whatever that thing is, you're going to do it again because there's no limit or boundary with whatever that
Mm-hmm.
thing was. But if there is a firm boundary, then I know where I stand. And actually, that provides some data for me. If I push a boundary and I get rejected or I get some pushback and that boundary is held firm, that's in some way comforting. That provides some safety and security for me.
And I think, particularly, as we develop as kids, school age and then becoming adults, in class, when you think back to like high school, you knew the first period English, you could push, Mrs. Smith a little bit farther, right? She still hasn't had her second cup of coffee yet. And,
Yeah,
the boundaries were a little fluid, but man, you went to second period math with Mr. Jones and you knew exactly where those boundaries were and you didn't push it.
right. Yep.
So I think it's another way of, as we develop the skill of how we read people, and we're making assumptions about other people about how firm their boundaries are, when to push it, when not to push it.
Right. I'm not getting away with goofing off with my friends in Mrs. Crabtree's class,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But in Mr. McDonald's class, oh yeah, yeah, we can do anything we want. Anything goes. He's
Right.
good with it. He's not going to enforce anything.
Mhm.
So this can be healthy, testing boundaries and
Yeah.
limits.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to safety too. In any environment, in a personal relationship, in a work environment, wherever, you want to know that there is a boundary, that it will be upheld because
Yeah,
there's safety there, right? There is safety and boundaries. If I know what my limits are and if I know what to expect, if A happens, then then B will happen, kind of stuff. There is
right.
safety there, and people test the limits because they want to. A lot of it goes back to their personal safety.
Yeah. Well, and then if we find that things are predictable, then to your point, that gives us some safety and security. If I know that these are the rules, these are the boundaries, and these are the limits,
Mhm.
then I'm not going to necessarily test them. I tested them a little bit. I realized that they were held firm and I know what I can get away with. I know how far I can go as an individual,
Mhm.
and I know that I'm going to be safe because I know if they're upholding these boundaries with me, then they're doing it with other people, and I feel like I can live in a somewhat decent and safe society, which is probably why a lot of people are bringing in the topic of politics and our country and things because the rules that we grew up with are suddenly non-existent.
Yeah, the rules and the boundaries seem to have changed in the country that we're living in currently. That's
Yeah.
definitely a
Yeah.
true
Yeah.
statement. Yeah. The other thing is when you see people that continually push boundaries, um, you know, the law, boundaries, whatever, there's people that are just prone to that because they're getting personal satisfaction or they're
Yeah.
getting some kind of reward out of being able to break the rules, right? Rules don't apply to me. I'm above the rules. No one's going to hold me accountable. And
Right.
you've seen people in your friend group, you've seen people at in your world that has continued to push boundaries and not be held accountable, and everyone's so irritated with that person.
Right.
Why don't they hold them accountable?
Right.
Why do they get to keep pushing the limits? And you hear this in sibling groups too.
Hmm.
Oh, the baby got away with anything. The youngest, they could do
Yeah.
anything they wanted, but I got caught and busted for everything I did.
I did. Right. For sure. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I'm the youngest, and my brother and I did very similar things,
Yeah.
but he always got caught, and I never got caught. I mean,
Mhm.
and whether they got caught or not, it was one thing. Whether my parents were turning their eye or they were just too exhausted, who knows? But it seemed to be that way. And my brother would never stop pointing that out.
Right. Well, and then they begin to understand that if I test the boundaries and I get some pushback, but I test it again and again and again, and then finally they give in, then they're
Hmm.
learning that, oh, all I need to do is push that boundary 3 to 5 times, and then eventually that boundary will crumble and I'll be able to, manipulate or get the things that I really
Hmm.
want. So that develops into a personality where,
Hmm.
we see it all over the place.
Yeah, you've seen that. We've seen that with parents that we've worked with, and their kids have learned that lesson on how far to push them. And
Yeah.
they push them to the brink. I mean, as a parent with the young kids, I mean, even older kids, it's exhausting,
Yeah.
and you can
Well,
be pushed.
that's why I want to put in a suggestion that parents remain tight, vigilant about holding those boundaries
Yeah.
very firm, despite what the child, whether that's a young child or an adolescent, brings to the table. Because
Hmm.
if you start modifying or allowing the negotiation to happen, then all hell's going to break loose.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not right away, but over a period of time. And then
Hmm.
at 17, you're trying to wrangle that, young adult, and it's already too late.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't get my 18-year-old to do anything. Well, how was that relationship when they were 14? How
Right.
did
Yeah.
that go?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah.
Also, people who have been traumatized throughout the course of their life, whether it was one trauma or a series of complex traumas, they end up unconsciously testing boundaries when they're in relationships, whether that's friendships or whether that's romantic relationships, as a way to like, can you handle me? Can you handle this? Are you going to show up for me? And they do that a lot,
Hmm.
unfortunately, and it becomes exhausting for the partner or the friend, or because they're always seeking that validation and affirmation that things are going to be okay.
Hmm. Not only can you handle me, but am I going to be safe?
Yeah.
Can I do these things and still have my safety protected? You
Yeah.
know, you know, can I not have my trauma re-experienced by
Right.
pushing the limits, kind of thing? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you know what? The 100 times that the person tests the boundaries as a way to assure that you love me and I'm safe with you. And 99% of the 99 times out of the 100, it was that one time that it wasn't for whatever reason, that sets off a whole cascade of negative emotions and thoughts. And it's almost like we backslide into, well,
Right.
one time, he didn't show up for me. Or,
Hmm.
well, what about all the other times that he did?
Right. Oh, we forget that because that's not what is important. You
Yeah,
know, I need to know that you're, going to show up for me 100% of the time, and I'm just going to focus on that one time you didn't,
right.
which is unfortunate. 99 times out of 100 is a great record.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Progress,
in
not perfect.
and we try in therapy to work through this, that like maybe, okay, a little bit of that testing is okay, but to establish that these are the things that your partner or friend or whatever is doing that demonstrates to you that they do love you, that they are supportive, that they are still a human being, so they still have their own individual needs, and those needs might at times conflict with what your needs are. They might need to be selfish at times, and that's okay. That doesn't equate to this is a toxic relationship and this isn't worth pursuing and I need to get a divorce.
All right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, those boundaries, Tom. What do you know?
So it can be healthy to push some boundaries. I mean, if we never test our limits, then we don't truly know what we are capable of,
Mhm. For sure.
right?
Exactly. And, pushing boundaries is healthy. It is, in most cases, it's healthy. It's being curious, exploring, always trying to press forward and do some different things. I mean, without pressing some boundaries, in general, it's kind of flat and boring. We've got to, what do they call it? Suck the marrow out of life kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
see what's out there. But when you're on the receiving end of people pressing your boundaries, that can be um, distressing for
Yeah.
sure. But make sure that you're clearly stating your boundaries. No, people know what your boundaries are,
Yeah.
and then hold firm to those boundaries. You
So
know.
if it is human nature to test boundaries and your partner is testing those boundaries and limits, let's reframe that. This is a beautiful opportunity for you
Hmm.
to go ahead and reestablish those boundaries in a loving, compassionate way and to say, no, this is not what I'm comfortable with. I don't enjoy or like or appreciate when you behave in this manner or talk to me in that way, and then you hold those boundaries firm. This can
Hmm.
reattest the strength and the safety of the relationship. So instead of being like, he's pushing my boundaries again, or she's, testing my limits, let this be a beautiful growing experience.
Hmm.
We're going to do this as human beings anyway to see how far we can go, to see what we're capable of mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, even. And
Right.
so that's not going to go away. So you
Hmm.
reaffirm this is my boundary. And
Hmm.
as long as you're okay with that and accepting of that, then we can continue with a wonderful relationship that's built on trust, mutual respect, and the ability to make each other better. But if you're
Hmm.
chronically pushing those boundaries, this is when it becomes harmful.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah, and this is, take a look at why do you continue to push those boundaries? What is it that you are seeking in this situation? Are the boundaries that have been established in that particular relationship um, you're not comfortable with? And if that's the case, is that why you keep pushing the boundaries? And that's a bigger conversation.
Right. Am I testing this boundary in order to grow, to either grow myself individually or to grow the relationship? Or that can be healthy. Or am I testing this boundary as a way to avoid something?
Mhm.
Whether that's a responsibility or whatever. If it's the first one, if you're testing it to grow, then maybe you can express that this is why I'm testing this boundary and limit so that we can grow our relationship and rise above some of the other issues or challenges. But if you're testing it because, well, you're just like irritated by that person's boundary, and you don't respect it, where you're trying to avoid taking care of what you need to take care of for yourself, then that's not so good, man.
Mhm. Mhm. My favorite way of this is what came to my mind is how do you know if someone's testing your limits? Well, if your response in your head is, "Have you lost your damn mind?"
Yeah,
That's probably an indication that someone's testing your boundaries and limits.
yeah. So when you are testing your boundaries or limits in places, I want you to just kind of ask yourself, what's the reason for
Hmm.
this? You know, why am I doing this? Is it because I want to get away with something so I don't have to work as hard? Maybe that's not so good. Are you avoiding something? Or is it a challenge that you don't want to face or a fear, and that's why you're testing the boundary? Or is it that you want to rise above and become a better version of yourself? Because in that case, if it's about exploration and learning and growth, then they can be pretty healthy testing those boundaries and limits. But
And if you're on the receiving end of people testing their boundaries, you know, ask yourself, instead of flying off into immediate anger, what's happening here? And having a rational conversation. You know that the limit is, A, but right now you're trying B. What's up with that?
yeah,
Why are you pushing it with me? Why are, I thought I've made it clear that my expectations were A, but now we're all, and we've been doing A for a while, but now you're pushing to B. What's up with that?
yeah. And if it's coming from a healthy place, from a loving place, for you setting the boundary and then reaffirming that boundary, and if they are also coming from a healthy and loving place, they're going to accept where you're at, and then you can have a conversation about that.
Hmm.
And that's a wonderful thing. Do
Yeah.
that. If they get defensive and they cause a fight, it was probably not coming from a very good place.
Right. The outcome often describes the input.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, man, all this talk time, I got to figure out some boundaries to push today.
All right, you listeners go out there, go push some boundaries,
All right. Challenge accepted.
but in a healthy way.
All right.
Yeah.
But in a healthy way.
Yeah, but in a healthy way, in an effort to grow and improve
Mhm.
and face some challenges and some adversity. Reaffirm the fact that we are, in fact, somewhat safe and secure.
And we see with a lot of people that have made great progress through counseling or therapy or whatever, is they've gotten very good at establishing and maintaining their boundaries.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they have, and we've seen where they test those limits, and it becomes the same session many times in a row. How many times do we need to have the same session? Once, twice, 17 times? You
mhm,
have a client come in and they're like, okay, I did this thing, and then you discuss it and you process it, and you're, well, maybe you shouldn't do that thing, and maybe
mhm.
you should try these other three things instead. And then they come back. I did that thing again. Okay, how did it go for you? Same thing happened, or it was worse this time. Okay, so what about trying these other three things that we had discussed? Yeah, maybe I'll try those.
What was the outcome you were hoping for that you're not getting? What is that outcome that you keep searching for but don't seem to find?
Yeah. Hmm.
We find that a lot with addictions is, I just want to be a normal person that can have a drink,
Right.
and not, one drink doesn't end up into 25,
Yeah.
where I wake up, naked on the golf course with squirrels chewing on my nipples. Well,
That sounds like a story, right? Is that a real story from
I
that
remember
happened in college?
that. It was a Saturday. It was a fall day. I read that on a
Oh,
TikTok.
last Saturday? Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, but you keep pushing, you keep pushing it and pushing it, and I keep trying to be a functional alcoholic, and it's not working for me. Well, okay.
Yeah. No. Mm. So what have you learned from that experience?
Right.
Yeah. That's one of the beautiful things about therapy is that we're not just about validating others and holding space. We're also about challenging some things and challenging your behaviors and, your learning and trying to facilitate deeper learning and deeper insight into yourself.
Hmm.
So, what boundaries are you pushing right now? Are they healthy boundaries that you're pushing, or are you doing it in a healthy way, or is it in a harmful way? I'd love for you to take a good hard look at that.
Hmm.
Mm.
And how stringent are the boundaries that you hold for yourself for other people?
Yeah,
Are they rock solid, not one deviation from your boundary?
right,
Or, you know, are you open to, I mean, you have to protect your safety and security, obviously. We're not talking about that, but are you open to new experiences and new ways of growth?
right. I would suggest and implore our dear listeners to set one clear boundary over the course of the next week and
Hmm.
then see how it feels to honor that boundary.
Hmm. So what you're saying, Tom, is you're not going to do any deadlifts for a week? Is that what you're telling
Probably for a while.
me? Is that your firm boundary that you're telling us about?
That's my boundary. I'm
Yeah.
actually not going to do any deadlifts for the rest of the year.
Oh,
Yeah.
good for you.
Every other movement is great, feels great. I feel strong, but just when it comes to these deadlifts for whatever reason, and I go heavy, it's just I'm not going to test it. I tested it this morning, and I ran up against the wall.
You
So,
did not get the outcome you were hoping for.
oh yes, that's still messed up. Okay. So
All
I'm
right,
going to learn from that experience and
we're
say,
going to check back in on you in November and see how you're holding up with that boundary.
yeah, yeah. I think after this morning, because I did test it, I will hold firm to that.
All right.
It's not worth it, right? I mean,
No. Well, and you and I talk, we're getting older, man. You hurt an injury now can be life altering.
exactly. Because remember when you were 22 and you did some massive thing, and then 12 hours later you felt good,
Right. Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
But now it's like 12 days later, you're still like, oh, is this going
Now
to stay? Is this
if
the
I
new
roll
normal?
right, if I roll over in bed the wrong way, I'm gonna have a kink in my neck.
Right. Yeah. Trying to get a sock out of the back of the dryer.
That hurts for 6 months.
Yeah. What is that, man? That sucks. You need to invest in one of those grabbers.
Yeah. All those.
Yeah, man. So that's our show.
All
If you
right.
liked it or you want to comment about it and there was something exciting about it or something you want us to clarify, please send in your questions and comments to questions@therapyunzipped.com. We'd be happy, more than happy to dive into them and
All right.
reach out to you and to answer some of your questions and relay your comments on the show.
Well, hopefully we tested people's boundaries today.
Yeah, man. It's something that we're going to do as human beings. Let's lean into it and try to make them healthy as a means to improve and to grow. And then when you hit a boundary, especially in a significant relationship that you have, honor that boundary for the other person, you know.
All righty, Tom. Thank you for your time. Always great to see you.
Same. Great to see you. Thank you. And we'll see you guys next week.
All righty.